How tired I am of being glued to my phone. I wake up, fall asleep, and reach for it every spare minute. I get cheap dopamine and zone out. Sound familiar? Today, millions of people face this issue, and some have truly learned to balance their content consumption. But others, like me, open their phones at every opportunity and don't even notice how quickly time flies. Want to understand how this affects our lives and what can be done to break free from this trap? Then let's dive in. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There was a time when I wasn't such a content consumer. I simply didn't have the time. Real life communications, events, and a busy life kept me from getting bored. But in the past few years, everything has changed. Now most of my entertainment revolves around my phone. I put off important tasks just to watch something I'll forget in a few seconds. And unfortunately, it's often not even something I'm genuinely interested in. You know how it goes. You start with a couple of funny memes and you end up watching motivational videos before bed, making it hard to sleep and ruining your sleep schedule. Enough. It's time to put an end to this. How? Let's figure it out together. I've made a decision. In the coming days, I will no longer mindlessly scroll through feeds. The internet will become solely a tool for productivity and benefit for me. What rules am I setting? First, the internet is for creating videos. I need materials for high quality, meaningful content. So everything will be purposeful, no random scrolling. Second, staying connected with friends. We live far apart, but maintaining contact is essential. This isn't just casual chatting, it's a part of my life. Third, learning and mindful content consumption. I'm not a native English speaker, so I'll watch only videos and podcasts in English to improve my language skills and gain useful knowledge from my viewing. Everyday online tasks, of course, will remain, but I will approach my internet time consciously and strictly. All of this is to break the habit of pointless scrolling and gain more control over my time. I've decided not to delete my apps because this approach will be simpler and more convenient for transitioning to mindful usage. The problem isn't the apps themselves, but how we use them. Deleting them is a drastic measure, and I want to learn how to control myself, not hide from temptation. By keeping the apps, I am challenging myself to use them differently, consciously, with a specific purpose, and without endlessly scroll through feeds. This will test my discipline and my ability to choose what to truly focus on. This approach is simpler because I'm not cutting everything off abruptly, but it's also harder because it requires inner work. Before the experiment began, I apparently tried to stock up on content for the next 30 days. I just couldn't stop, but soon I went to sleep and the challenge officially began. From the first days, I started feeling the lack of fleeting content that usually energized me in the mornings, during lunch, or just filled the gaps between tasks. I often picked up my phone, saw that friends were sending videos, but didn't allow myself to watch them. It was tough and my mood was far from great, but I decided to push through. To distract myself, I went for walks. Coincidentally, during this time, I decided to walk 10,000 steps every day. It was refreshing and helped me avoid slipping back into old habits. Occasionally, I would open TikTok or Instagram, but quickly realized what I was doing and closed them. Switching to messengers helped a bit. I actively communicated with friends, filling my free time that way. The hours flew by quickly, but as soon as the conversations ended, my hand would reach for the feed again, craving to consume tons of unnecessary information. By the end of the week, the urge to open social media began to decrease. Daily chores, trips, and helping my parents filled my days, leaving less time for endless scrolling. 11 days into the experiment, I started reflecting. What had changed? I can't yet say that anything has drastically shifted, but the fact that I'm not endlessly scrolling through feeds has had some effect on my mental state. First, I stopped following successful people, showcasing how perfectly everything is going for them, which previously led me to rush, set countless goals, and eventually burn out. If you experience this, leave a comment. I'd love to know how you handle it. Secondly, I found myself checking messengers more often, seeking comfort in conversations with friends, which while beneficial isn't quite what I want from this experiment. Lastly, I immersed myself in English content, listening to educational videos, but sometimes I returned to long YouTube videos in my own language, which disappointed me. To prevent this from happening again, I decided that every morning I will start by reading at least one page from a book with short stories in English. Then I'll put on my headphones and go for a walk while listening to a podcast also in English. I also use apps to improve my language skills and limit socializing when not necessary, saving evening walks as a pleasant time to connect with people. Let's see how this impacts my state and whether it helps me change my habits. And so, the 12th day of the experiment arrived. Upon waking up, I immediately went for a walk, taking my headphones with educational material. Half an hour of walking while listening to useful content was a great way to start the day. When I returned, I got down to reading. To be honest, it wasn't easy. Many words were still unfamiliar to me, but I pushed through and completed the task. Back home I continued working on my language skills. I enjoyed English content and learned new words. It required effort, but the feeling of filling my day with purpose and moving toward my goal was well worth it. After the experiment began, things were going steadily. I focused on household chores, completed my set tasks, and continued learning English. I started using new language learning apps and watched educational videos. However, I must admit there were moments when the urge to watch something on YouTube got the better of me, leading me to switch back to content in my native language. Yet, after 15 days, I firmly promised myself to consume only content that contributes to my growth. In the days that followed, I continued progressing toward my goal. There were times when I felt like giving up, when they were tough and things didn't go according to plan. But there were also bright days when I engaged in productive activities with great enthusiasm and felt truly satisfied with my efforts. I didn't give up on what I started, and this gave me the realization that the key is to begin even with small steps. I didn't completely abandon social media. Yes, I communicated and exchanged messages, but I never allowed it to become a problem. If I was busy, I didn't let messages interrupt me and only responded after completing a task. By the way, I want to share a tip that helps me maintain focus. If someone messages me, I see the notification and tell myself, I'll complete this task and then reply. In 99% of cases, I forget that someone even texted me and only remember when I open my phone later. Perhaps watching this video you might have thought that I would completely give up my phone. On one hand, that would be an interesting experiment, but not just yet. I realized how I need to move forward, which tools to use and which ones to leave behind. It turned out that giving up aimless scrolling freed up a lot of time, which I can now channel into meaningful activities. Ahead lies the testing of new self-improvement methods, and I'm determined to become the best version of myself without wasting time. The feeling of not having watched short content for 30 days gave me a sense of satisfaction and boosted my confidence. I want to tell you, don't be afraid to start. Take small steps, even if they seem insignificant at first. In the long run, they will bear fruit. If you want to learn a new language, start with one word a day. Want to get stronger? Start with 10 push-ups every morning. The key is discipline. To sum up, I can say that I achieved the desired result. It wasn't perfect, but I made it. The battle with myself is only just beginning. And I'm grateful to everyone who has been with me on this journey. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. There is a lot more interesting content to come. Bye bye.